there guys, gals, and my non-binary pals. How's it going? Right here bringing you a brand new video. So this is part one of a two-part video series that kind of interconnect together, at least in my head. It was originally going to be a long-winded kind of essay that I was writing, mostly to get my feelings out. I was originally going to upload it to my writing site, and maybe I can still do that, I don't know. But basically, part one is me kind of changing my opinion on something that I've said before. I don't know to how many people, probably not even very many, but basically I had an opinion, it changed. And part two is about age regression, basically. That kind of interconnects with the epiphany that came from the opinion change. It kind of all word vomited onto the paper last night when I was writing it. This morning I kind of tried to clean up the written form of it a little bit, and then I decided, hey, this would be a really good idea for a video. So I will warn you that it's mostly going to be me reading off of the paper because it's not something that I memorized or whatever yet. I will not be doing this. I will still try to maintain eye contact with the video, maybe give a little aside or whatever, now that I'm a couple hours removed from writing this even. But in general, it's just going to be me reading. So, in my time interacting with the trans community, especially since coming out as trans myself, there have been people who say that, you know, a trans person was always the gender that they identify as, even if they didn't know it. And I kind of disagree with that. And for me particularly, I really disagreed with it. I didn't think that I was always a man because I was raised as a woman. And back then, I thought that society saw me as a woman, but there were some things that I kind of gave a lot of thought to. I still don't believe that every single trans person was the gender that they identify as, even before they came out, even before they realized it. I think it's very much an individualistic, experience. If somebody does think that they were always the gender that they identify as, great for them. If somebody doesn't think that they were always the gender they identify as, still a valid thought. I don't think that it's a uniform blanket thing. I think it's individualistic, and I don't think it's fair to say that every trans person was always the gender they identify as. So with that said, okay, so I had always been of the opinion that the idea that all trans people were always the gender that they identify as is wrong. I thought because of how I was raised, I thought because of certain experience I had had, that for me, that particular idea was false. But recently, I realized that I was wrong for me specifically, for a few reasons, actually. Now, I'm going to preface this with saying that this is 100% only my thoughts. This is an individualistic thing. I am not giving a blanket statement to anybody. This is me, my thoughts only. My personal truth. And it's only because of the other ways that I am also a man. I'm not saying that anybody who has shared these experiences who is a woman is not actually a woman. I'm not saying that anybody who is a man who has had the contrasting side of my experiences is not actually a man. For me specifically, this is how I realized I was always a man. Both being male and female have unique experiences. Both binary genders have issues that the other side doesn't necessarily experience. One of the things that males experience on a lesser extreme than females is sexual harassment and assault. At least in terms of what is reported, women are, on average, more likely to be sexually assaulted and sexually harassed. I, on the other hand, have never been catcalled, never had a hand laid on me that I did not consent to. Granted, not every woman has experienced one or the other, but it definitely does seem to happen to them on an alarming scale. Something else girls tend to experience is guys treating them differently than other guy friends when a guy and a girl are friends. Treating them differently than one of the guys. I had never really experienced that unless I pursued first. And even then, a lot of times, they weren't necessarily interested. Any male friends I had before coming out as trans treated me as one of the guys. Something else I noticed, kind of an interesting thing, not necessarily directly related to this, but on average, if a guy was interested in me, had a higher chance of being bisexual or pansexual. I thought that was kind of interesting. Despite how I was raised, despite my parts, it seems like my energy has always been male. It just took me coming to terms with it, me coming out as trans, to finally be outwardly male. The handful of things that I talked about in this video are not the determining factors or the only factors of me being trans, of me being a man. I could have dealt with a long history of sexual harassment and sexual assault and still be a man. I could also have had the same experience that I have had now, no sexual assault, no sexual harassment, and still be valid as a woman if that's how I identified as. I guess more or less this is confirmation bias than anything else. That being said, this self-reflection kind of confirmed my desire to be referred to as Ryan and he or him when referring to me in the past. I know there's a lot of confusion about how to handle that kind of situation, and kind of me deciding, putting my foot down about it, gave me a lot of euphoria that I wasn't expecting over it. Bigger than my dysphoria, on the more positive side of things, being referred to as he and him and sir offers so much gender euphoria that a lot of times that is how I realize that I'm trans. Like, the dysphoria is bad, but a person can hate their body without being trans. However, me getting so giddy and happy and feeling like it's right every time I'm referred to as my name or being referred to as sir or he or him, every time I get that warm, happy feeling in my stomach, that's how I know I'm actually trans. That is the confirmation. Yeah, the dysphoria is bad, and yeah, that's a part of it, but it's not as glaring of proof of me being trans as being referred to with the correct pronouns. Which might be an interesting thing to do a video on, gender euphoria, as opposed to constantly talking about my dysphoria. I might have to jot that one down. But yeah, so that's part 1 of this video series. Part 2 will be coming next week. Will be about mental regression and, you know, kind of stuff relating to that. But that's this week's video, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!